While I was asleep, he stripped our home bare. Every trace of our life together was gone. All because of one reckless mistake at an office party. Hi everyone, I'm Natalie, 29, and I want to share a story that may sound familiar if you've ever watched a single bad choice unravel everything you cared about. Not long ago, I believed I was living the dream. Married to Lucas, 31, and building a future full of warmth, stability, and love. For 2 years, our life together felt strong and steady, but everything collapsed in a way I never saw coming. The morning it happened, I woke up to an uneasy silence. Our house, once buzzing with love and comfort, looked hollow. Furniture, electronics, even our framed photos, gone. At first, I thought we'd been robbed, but nothing was broken and the doors were still locked. Then I saw a note on the counter in Lucas's handwriting. Asterisk Happy New Year, Natalie. May your fresh start be kinder than I was. Asterisk My knees gave out, and I sank into the chair, heart pounding, unable to process the reality that the man who had stood beside me through so much had simply vanished. To understand, I need to take you back. 3 years earlier, I was just starting an internship at a mid-sized consulting firm when I met Lucas. He was a project supervisor, smart, respected, quietly confident in a way that drew people in. I tried to keep things professional, but the pull between us was undeniable. After working closely on a few projects, we began dating. 8 months later, during a snowy mountain getaway, he proposed. It felt like forever was ours. Marriage sped life up. Lucas landed a position at a rival firm with double the salary, and we bought a bigger house in the suburbs. We talked about kids, traveling, renovations, the whole future. My own career was advancing too, though it brought more stress than I'd anticipated. I started carrying work home, staying up late, and drinking more than I should. What began as a glass of wine after dinner became finishing entire bottles. Lucas noticed. At first he raised it gently, then with more urgency. I brushed him off, insisting I was fine. I wasn't. It escalated until one night I completely blacked out. That became my wake-up call. I entered rehab and took half a year off work. It was the hardest period of my life, but Lucas never left. He supported me every step of the way, never once threatening to abandon me. That's who he was. When I returned to work, things felt different. My new manager, Ethan Carter, was in his mid-40s, energetic, charming, with a knack for drawing people in. Lucas didn't like him, called him manipulative, and warned me to be careful. I dismissed it as unnecessary jealousy. Ethan seemed harmless, even encouraging. When a colleague went on maternity leave, I ended up working longer hours with Ethan. We were often the last ones in the office. Late-night emails turned into late-night texts. Lucas noticed and voiced his discomfort, saying I was always on my phone, always tied up with Ethan. I reassured him, told him it was just work, but he wasn't convinced. One night, after a heated argument, I snapped and told Lucas he needed to trust me or give me space. Looking back, that was the moment the cracks began to spread. Soon after, Ethan started sharing personal details about his own life. One late evening, after the office had emptied, he brought me a coffee and asked how I was really doing. I broke down. I confessed. Things with Lucas had grown strained, weighed down by the guilt I carried and the effort of pretending everything was fine. He listened quietly as I spoke, but then I made a terrible mistake. In a surge of raw emotion, I hugged him, and before I could stop myself, I kissed him. It wasn't romantic, just confused and messy, and the regret hit me instantly. We pulled back quickly, both of us wearing the same shame. We agreed to keep our distance and act as though nothing had happened, but ignoring it didn't erase the damage. Soon whispers started at work. People noticed how we interacted, the closeness, the laughter, the subtle signs, and those rumors eventually reached Lucas. One evening he confronted me, demanding the truth. I lied. I told him it was just gossip, never admitting to the kiss. I thought burying it deep enough might let me repair things and move on. By December, I was desperate to make amends. I cooked his favorite meal, planned a quiet evening, and promised I would transfer to another team once the project ended. Lucas seemed to soften, and we agreed to try to start fresh in the new year. When the company's New Year's Eve party came around, Ethan suggested Lucas join us. I agreed, hoping it might ease his doubts. That night the drinks were flowing. I hadn't touched alcohol in over a year, but I told myself one glass wouldn't hurt. One turned into 5. Lucas grew upset, but I brushed him off, slurring that it was just New Year's. I ended up seated between him and Ethan. After that, everything blurred. The next morning, I woke to an empty house. Lucas was gone, everything of his, gone. He left only a note I read again and again, struggling to understand. In shock, I reached out to Ethan to fill in the blanks. He told me Lucas had tried to stop me from drinking more that night, but I resisted, and we argued loudly. At midnight, I toasted with Ethan, hugged him, and kissed him again, this time in plain view. Lucas saw. That was it. I sat frozen as the realization sank in. I had destroyed the one relationship that had survived every hardship. All for a moment of weakness, and for wounds I had never really healed. Months later, I live alone in a silent apartment with empty walls and no photos. Lucas has never reached out, and I doubt he ever will. I'm sober again, but now the emptiness isn't just about the alcohol. It's about losing the one person who stood by me when no one else would. Trust is fragile. Often, it isn't the betrayal alone that ends a relationship, but the lies, the distance, and the reckless choices we justify in our pain. If someone loves you at your lowest, don't give them a reason to question you at your best.